Alright, so we worked on the stock sum. We did the sort of the butt here, this little shoulder piece. We cut out the little inlays for the shoulder strap catch thing, and I think we'll just go ahead and start knocking out some of the little parts. We'll do the trigger first. And triggers are really easy to do. A couple of different ways you can do it. You can extrude along a curve if you like to do that, or you can just do it by hand. I mean, it's a simple piece. If you want to do it by hand, you just put some little bits in there and arrange them. Sometimes they'll have like a little sort of a back piece that curls around and then comes down. This particular one is just kind of a straight up. It looks like maybe it has like a double trigger for like a safety feature, but you can put that in if you want to. Usually for that I would just duplicate the trigger and kind of shrink it down, scale it down. But I think we'll just go with the single trigger for this one because I like how that looks better. And I'm going to insert an edge loop here. I think what I might do is I'm going to take this and, of course it's too wide, I've got to scale it in here. So I'll bring it in. I'll bring it in a little bit more because what I want to do is I want to take this kind of edge here and here and just put a little extra bit out. You know, you can add in this kind of stuff when you're doing your model. Just if you feel like it, you know, you don't have to match the picture, so just do what you like to do. Get something that you're interested in. You can look at other components, like if you want a trigger off of a different gun, use that as a reference, and just put it on there. Make it your own. So I'm just going to delete that top part so it doesn't smooth out along the top, and I'm going to snap it back to that center line. And I'm going to add in another edge loop here just to make that edge sharp, and maybe I'll do one back here as well. Heck, let's just put in some more. Okay, so that's a little bit more stylish of a trigger than maybe what it was. And I kind of feel like this top part should be a little bit larger. Okay, so there's our trigger. You know, we've kind of customized it a little bit just to make it a little more interesting to look at. So what do we want to do next? Let's go ahead and get this bolt handle out of the way. I don't like making bolt handles. I don't know why. They just kind of bore me or something. I don't know. We'll just do it real quick. I'm just going to use a sphere. I'm going to leave it at this resolution of geometry, even though You could shrink it down. I'm going to create a CV curve, and I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to come right on down. And then I'm also going to look at the top bit there, because I don't have a top view reference that I'm looking at or anything. So I'm just going to kind of match these up by looking at them. I kind of don't like the size of this. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Okay. And so then I'm going to grab that little curve in there. Maybe, if I can find it. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to pull it out. It's at the center of the pivot. Pull it out. So it's basically at that edge. And I'm going to grab the control vertex. I just want to pull it out, shape it a little bit. Essentially something like that. You could probably pull this out some more. And oops. Let's kind of push this one down and in. That. Okay. And then I'm just going to make a cylinder right there. Rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to shrink it down till it's a width that I want for my piece. We're just going to extrude along the curve again. I'm going to select this face, choose the curve, extrude. Now obviously that's not what we want, so you just scroll down over here in your history, you see the extrusion, go to divisions, and you're just going to pop that up. Another nice little thing that you can do with this extruding along the curve is right here, 2 down, this taper. You can taper the end to make it smaller so it kind of thins out a little bit as it goes down. Let me put another couple divisions in there. And I think I'm okay with that. Let's kind of look at it. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. That looks okay to me. I want to put in a little crease here because I would like to see, if you look on here, because this back part comes out when you pull the bolt. When you lift this part and pull it back, I believe that this part comes back as well. It's the back end of the bolt. So if we can put in maybe this little indentation, and then also maybe like a crease right here, that will probably be nice, make it look a little bit better. So first we'll do that little sort of indentation there. So we'll just, sometimes you'll get, you know, when, depending on the way the topology already is, when you add in an edge loop, you'll get little curves and stuff. If you want to straighten that out, you can kind of scale it in the direction until it thins out, and then I'm just going to pull it over a little bit. I'm actually going to do the same thing over here because I want that. Okay, and let me look at this one more time. Okay, so it comes all the way up to about here. So we'll go We'll take this part and we will extrude it, and we're going to push it in, and then I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale it in so that it's flat in there, or at least pretty flat, depending on the results. Okay, and looking at this, I think it goes in pretty good, so let's kind of bring this here, and I think that I'll bring this bit just in a little bit, maybe. Sort of a little dyslexic moment there. I don't know that I want to bring this in. Let's see. I'm going to curve this a little bit. I'm just putting a little bit of a curve in there because this is actually kind of the bolt in there, so we could potentially even take this and have it kind of extend down and maybe be in there with it. But then I think that I would also put an edge loop in, and I would pull out this. I would put in one more edge loop. Hold on. I would take probably these edges here and kind of flatten them. And maybe just bring it down in there, just to make it a little more interesting. And then I was saying that I wanted a crease in here. And one way that I like to do creases is I like to make one edge loop, and then this doesn't work for all applications. Obviously, if it creates creases in areas that you don't want down the road, down the line somewhere, you want to watch out for that. But I like this little technique. What I do is I take my center one and I put one on either side, and then I'll take that edge. Let me put one down here as well, because I don't want this to go all the way down. I want another crease here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge where I want the crease, and I also want the crease here. And I'm just going to push it in. And you can see how that creates a crease when it's smooth as well. But we do need to go ahead and put in an edge here, probably here as well, and here, and up top. Probably here, and here. So you can see this is adding quite a bit of geometry. So again, I'm not showing you techniques for low poly modeling. This is just for something that we can kind of render and have and show off a little bit. Okay, so I pushed that in, and I'm getting because I put this kind of corner on it, I'm getting a little bit of a crease where I didn't want it, so just put in a couple extra edges on the outside part. And now we have, you know, the rest of it is kind of unaffected, but we have that little bit where we wanted it. Sort of just this piece here. I may want to put, it looks like there's a little bit of a crease there as well. So I could potentially push this bit in a little bit as well if I wanted to. So, I don't know, let's see if we like how that looks. So it just puts in a little bit more, gives a little more dimension. So I'm going to leave that how it is now. I like that. We've got the bolt, and it's starting to actually look like, you know, like a gun, like a sniper rifle, so we're getting what we want. What's a sniper rifle without a scope, though? Of course, we need a scope. Now this scope here is fine. You know, it's a small scope, but you might want to go a little more dramatic. You might want to make it bigger, maybe more interesting. So you could look up different kinds of scopes and maybe just make one that you want to put on there. Or you could just kind of come up, make one up as you go. So we'll start this one and see. I might make some changes to it to make it a little more interesting to me. So we're just going to start with this cylinder. That's pretty much how I start any kind of barrel shape, or, you know, why start with a box if you're making a cylinder? It's already cylindrical. So I like to just set one end, and then you could either go all the way down and then just start like cutting edges in and doing it that way, or you can do extrusions, which I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'll just extrude it out, and then like I'll shrink it down here, and I'll extrude it out, and I'm kind of doing like the main tube of it. I'm not worried about all the little buttons and knobs and stuff. I just want like sort of the main body of it at first when I'm doing this step here. You know, we're starting out small and working our way up to the detail. So then you get something like that. And then, so like maybe I want, you know, there's this sort of little lip on there, here, and then, you know, for adjust, the little knob for adjusting. So for that, you can do it as a separate piece if you want to, especially if you want it to be adjustable, obviously, if you're going to like animate it or something. Or you can put in like this, you can put in little things, little edge loops, and then extrude out. Like this, just pull from the blue one, and you get that little lip on there. I think that I will do the I'll do that one knob as a separate piece, just because how I have it modeled, I think it'll be easier. Okay, so I just snapped it to the center so that I know it's going to be the same. And I'm going to actually go ahead and just duplicate this real quick and set it off to the side, because I know I need some for these knobs as well. So I'm just going to set it off to the side so I have it. Okay. We'll do something like that. We'll do that. And we'll just put in a couple of edge loops. Take the vertices here and scale them in. So that gives us a little knob on there. And then here, I'm gonna want this. You could make it out of a box, the little base part. I'm gonna keep it cylindrical because I like how that looks. And I'm gonna duplicate it and rotate 90 degrees. Okay. Pull it out a little bit. Scale it. If you wanted to, you could potentially like model all the little ridges or make this more interesting by kind of having little modeled ridges for the hand to grab onto. Just extrude them out a little bit. You know, maybe just something just to make it a little bit more interesting. Maybe I'll pull this out like this and take that face and just kind of maybe do something like this so it's more of a knob attached on there. You can take this face here and sort of make little shapes. Just to make it more interesting, you know. And then you can smooth it out to make it look even more detailed. You just put a couple of edge loops in here, maybe down here. You know, anywhere that you need like a harder edge on there. Put one here, here, here. And then you know you end up with something like this that just looks way more interesting than just having a cylinder pop out. And then, you know, we've already modeled this. I'm going to delete my history real quick. And I'm going to save. And so now, I'm deciding that's like a little small, and make it a little bigger. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And I can just rotate that. I can pop it over to the center. And bring it up. And now I have some cool knobs for my little adjustment there. I want to smooth out some stuff to make it more interesting. So I'm just putting in some edge loops. I'm going to take this face and I'm going to extrude it and scale it in so I don't get pinched. See, sometimes you can get pinched edges when you smooth around here, so if you just kind of scale it in, you won't get that. Or, well, you will get it, but it'll be like so small you can't see it because it'll be like in the center. So it's not an issue. This thing I actually want crisper edges here, so I'm going to put some edges just to sharpen it actually. I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm sharpening it by doing that. The scope itself is not done. We need to take these faces You can make your lenses separate pieces. If you're going to use materials, that might be easier because you can make the lenses themselves just one material. You don't have to go in there and select it. Or you can just make them, just do extrusions and scales to make them. But so I'll just push this in, and then I'm going to go to mesh. I'm going to go to extract, because I just want to take that face out of there. It's already the right size and everything, so I'm just going to take it out, and I'm going to make my lens from it. So I'm just, again, extruding and scaling, and you just want a nice curvature to the lens, so when you put a material on there you can get some nice shine and reflections and stuff like that. So there's an example of a lens that looks like the edge of it is coming out, so let me just make sure this is correct. Okay, there's a face on the back here I don't want, so I'm just deleting that. Okay, and so then we'll just push that in. And if you don't want to make another one, you can just put it down the other end. And we'll just scale it negative. So you get something like that. And we'll take this face in, make a little spot for it. So you can do that, and then just push this in there. You can scale it down a little bit if it's too big. So that's that part, and then just taking out these crisp edges again by putting in some edge loops, and then smoothing with the with the smooth preview with the 3 key. So giving that some shape. And I'm putting them farther away from these because I don't want hard edge. I want a little bit of an edge, but I want still a nice smooth shape. Okay. So there is that. You can see this doesn't look very good. I should put some edges in there. Put them in real close. I want a nice hard edge on this. So there's that. And that's a pretty good scope for just a few minutes of work. And you could do anything you wanted with this. You could really make these bigger if you want to. Maybe just make it like more exciting. You could make it like really big, pull it out or whatever. But I actually like how it turned out, so I'm going to leave it as is. And of course we need to do the little pieces to hold it on. So let me go ahead and delete my history and save this, and save it also. I'm going to save a copy just in case. Okay, and now we'll do those little clamp things. So coming over here, and these are something that you could go and you could find reference for these as well, and you could look at them, get them real kind of precise. But I'm just going to kind of wing it. I'm going to kind of just eyeball it and get it to something that I'm happy with. Okay. Scale that in. And put some edge loops in. So I'm just kind of making up a shape here, but I think it'll look fine. We'll get something that looks reasonable. So I'm just kind of making a shape that's interesting to me and believable. Take these and just kind of extrude them out a little bit. And I'm going to put in an edge here, here. I want some crisp edges here, and here, and here, on the bottom. And I know I want something, I want this to be pretty hard edge. I have to do this one on both sides. Like this. Put that in there, that in there. Okay, so we're getting a shape that looks pretty nice. I want to put in sort of a crease here, so I'm just going to use that same technique of putting a center one in, and then one on either side, and then I'll grab that whole loop and just scale it in. And if you feel like it's not hard enough of a crease, just put in another extra edge on either side, and that will make it harder. So now it's got like a little crease in there that looks good. It looks like it's two separate pieces, but it's really one piece. You could do two separate pieces if you preferred, but I like this because it gives you a really close, tight feel. I don't know. I just like how it feels better. And we can put some screws in if we want. We can put in some little screw heads. Let's look at our reference real quick. So it looks like there's a screw probably holding that together, as well as a large screw here for if you wanted to take the sight off. So we'll do definitely the large screw, and maybe we'll do something up here. We'll probably do something a little different. I don't know that I want to cut in holes from above. I could, I just don't necessarily like how that would look as much. Make these a little bit longer, just so we have some more room. Make sure that looks okay. Alright. I think it would be nice to have a little bit of a hollow in here, actually. And if you want to put in maybe just like right here. I just want a hollow right here. We don't want our sniper rifle to weigh too much, you know, carrying it around the woods or whatever. So I'm just gonna get that. I'm gonna extrude the edge over. I'm gonna seal that up, snap it on there, and then I'm gonna merge my vertices. And so that's a little bit of a cooler shape. And if we wanted to, we can put, if we want to make it a little bit sharper, we can put an edge loop in there. So that's more interesting. I like how that feels. It's cooler. Maybe we'll add a little bit of dimension to this side as well by just kind of sucking these in a little bit. Oops, I didn't grab them all. There we go. So we can just kind of do maybe something like that. I'm just kind of adjusting stuff to make it cooler looking for me. Alright, so let's take a cylinder and we're just going to make a quick screw. Depending on how detailed you want it to be, you could get really detailed with it. I'm going to shrink this in. Okay. So like maybe we want to make a really sort of detailed thing here. I'm going to turn keep faces together off, select all these faces, and I'm going to extrude them out, and then I'm going to go into edit mesh, I'm going to go to transform component, and that's going to allow me to scale all of these at once. And so obviously this is lots of polygons. You wouldn't do this unless you weren't worried about them, which I'm not, so it's not an issue. So now I've got this sort of bridged area, and you could make it more detailed if you wanted to, but I think this will be fine. So we make like a little ridge, and then make sure you turn keep faces together back on, because if you forget that's off, it can cause some problems for you. Now, for a screw, you could use a cylinder. You can also use a sphere like this. And if you cut the bottom half of it off, like that, and then you take the top bit here and kind of smush it down. That can give you a nice sort of screw head base to work off of. And then you can use a boolean. A lot of people don't like to use booleans because they don't work most of the time if you're doing Vernon. Or if you're doing like complex shapes, definitely don't recommend using a boolean. But I think we'll go ahead and give it a try because this is such a simple piece, really, and it's an easy, quick way to kind of get it done. So just going to select those and I'm going to do a boolean on there. Just make sure it looks okay. It looks fine to me. And so now we've got a nice easy screw head done. I might come in here and just kind of extrude this out a little bit in case I want to have some of it poking through. Okay, so I'm just gonna group these together. I'm gonna delete my history and save. And then I'm just gonna modify the, you can go to modify center pivot on the screw. And I'm gonna rotate it, so I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. Put it up where I want it, about, scale it down. And then I'm just going to push it in, get it over to that surface, and decide where I want to put it. I think I'll put it on top of here actually, and just kind of tilt it by looking at it. And come over here and look at it if you want. So maybe a little bit big, make it a little smaller. So that's an easy way to add, like, you know, a pretty significant amount of detail. And it looks complicated, but it's really a simple object. And then we can take all of that. Oops. I'm just going to group it again, duplicate it, and move it over. And just like that, I have a pretty interesting little scope railing. So that's that part. And I think we'll work on the little bipod thing there next. So I'm just going to take a little break and get some water, and then we'll come back to it and have a look at sort of some of the finishing touches, and maybe we'll even get into materials and doing some rendering. We'll see. Alright, so we're back, and we've got things modeled out pretty good. Just kind of working on some smaller details, and we're going to go ahead and do the little bipod here. And I'm trying to decide if I want to leave it up like that, or if I want to bring it down. I haven't really decided. I might do both. Let's just go ahead and start on this. So, as usual, just making a box. I'm looking at it, and I just want to get it okay. So we have kind of that rail system that we had also on top here. That would be for, like, if you wanted to attach maybe like a little flashlight, or I don't know, you would need a flashlight on a sniper rifle probably, but different little attachments you could put on there, or maybe just mounting like a different kind of bipod. But we'll just put this little rail system on here. We can actually copy some of those pieces from the top and just put them on the side here, and then we'll just kind of play this by ear, see what we want. So let's take a look here. I'm going to thin this out a little bit. And I'm going to take this back part and just go ahead and right now extrude, scale it in a little bit, and then extrude out into this, just so that it's definitely attached regardless of how I make it look. It's definitely going to look attached to this piece. And you can see there is a small little area where it kind of attaches on there. And then I think we'll just put an edge loop in here and take these bits and extrude them out a little bit. And we'll end up putting our little railing bits on there. And then down here, I'm going to extrude and scale it out a little bit. And just kind of make a little shape that I like. You know, similar. And we could probably make another little rail piece there if we wanted to, actually, but no, this should be fine. And I'm going to go ahead and get this ready to be smooth it out. So I'm just putting in some edge loops, like I've been doing all along, so that we can have some sharper edges in certain places. Back here and here. Alright. So I'm taking a look at that. I like it. It looks pretty good. There's a little bit of a line there in the end, so I'm just going to put this sort of in there. It's not perfect, but it's fine. We'll put here on either side just to minimize that kind of pinching at the corner. Okay. And I'm gonna just steal some of these. So I'm just gonna duplicate those and bring them on over. I mean, there's really no sense in modeling new ones if I already have them. You know, it's just kind of like minimize the workload there. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. So bring these out. They're not going to be the right size probably, but we'll scale them a little bit. So I'm just going to eyeball it. I'll set them in there. And scale it down a bit. So yeah, I think we'll just scale them a little bit. And you could take time and really kind of match these up perfect if you want to. I'm not going to. I think they're fine. I am, however, going to really only need one. I'm going to, again, do a duplicate with a transform, so Shift D, and move it over. I'm just going to do it a couple of times, because I want them evenly spaced, but I wanted these ones a little bit tighter together. I'm sure that's not physically accurate to how this railing would really be, but I don't care. That's not what I want. I just want something that looks good and believable. So I believe it looks fine. And let's just take these. I'm going to group them and then I'm going to see how when I group it, puts my pivot at the 0 point, and then I'm going to duplicate it, duplicating the group, and then I'm going to scale it -1 in the Z direction, and that's going to basically make a duplicate group over here on the other side, so it's just going to match up perfect. So that's fine. You could center the pivot if you want. I'm not going to mess with it. I think I will put something down on the bottom, actually. So I'm just going to duplicate that and bring it down. And then we're going to snap it to the 0 point there. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees and just kind of push it up in there and widen it out a little bit to match the edges a bit better. So there's that. Okay, so that looks pretty cool and didn't take too long. So we're good to go there. And then we'll put on the actual bipod part. So just trying to decide how I want to do it. We'll just do a box first. Here. I'm gonna actually center it more than it is on there. Although, I don't know, maybe I will push it upwards some. Okay. And it kind of splits off to each leg. So I'm just gonna cut down the center there. And we'll probably go ahead and bring in these edges a little bit. Something like that. Maybe bring it. Maybe I'll bring those faces down a little bit more. And, just add a little curve in there. Put that up. I'm going to take these faces and extrude them out so that they kind of create those separate legs. So it's a simple shape. I'm not getting too fancy with this particular piece. I am going to bring it up a little bit because it's not over this little lip here. It looks like it's not quite wide enough there either, so I'm going to insert, usually suck this in some, and I want to bring it out here, as well as right here. Okay, and I'm going to put some edge loops just because I want a little bit sharper edge on these when I smooth it. At the top I'm going to want a hard edge. So this is what we have so far. I'm going to cut here. And this isn't something that's necessarily on the reference image, but it's something that I want to add to the piece. I'm just feeling like putting it in there. was going to do it that way, but I think I'll do this. Just to give it a little bit more shape, make it a little more interesting. I'm gonna kind of pop those out. Maybe I'll set them in a little bit. So we're just kind of like beveling those. And then if I put, again, some edge loops in, I can kind of crispen those edges a little bit. So it's kind of cool. It's just a cool little addition there, I guess. I'm actually going to kind of put in some cylinders here. So let's just rotate this and bring it down. I'm actually going to make the legs separately, kind of off away from the model, and then I'm going to position them back onto the model when it's complete, or at least close to complete. It's just going to make it a little bit easier for me to work on it without having to deal with strange rotations or anything like that. So what I'm doing now is creating the little foot part. I want it to be, I'm just using this as reference for the length of it, really. And then I can, similarly to how we did the scope, I'm just kind of gonna put some of this stuff in there. And you can just scale it down until you get it where you want it. So let's take this stuff and just kind of push it out a little bit. Those vertices and just kind of scale them to align them. Okay. So something like that is working for me. I think I'd like to put in maybe this foot area here. Sometimes that'll happen, like I just tried to extrude those faces, but it didn't extrude them. I don't know why, just a glitch, I guess. So I'm just going to do it again. So I'm just taking that, pushing it out, and it's, well, let's do that, okay? And I'm going to take this part, and this is going to be the foot here, at the very end. I'm going to kind of scale it down a little bit. I'm also going to adjust this edge here because it's not really quite right for this piece. I'm just going to widen that out and pull it out a little bit. Give us a better curve. Okay, so there's a foot. I think that maybe it's might be a little too thick in here. I'm not really happy with that, so I'm just going to kind of suck this down a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that looks a lot nicer to me. So what I kind of want to do is I want to have it so it'll rotate around here. So I was thinking I could either put this cylinder on there and just kind of like rotate from there, you know, with it tilted, and just kind of do like one of these. But I'm actually thinking that maybe I should put a hole in here. So, like, we cut that screw earlier, we cut the top of it, but that's not really going to work for this shape. I mean, I could potentially do a boolean, but I don't really want to mess with trying to do a boolean on this piece. I don't know that it would work. So I'm just going to extrude these faces straight down. I'm going to merge use my merge vertex tool and just kind of snap these on here. Okay. And I'm going to take this edge, I'm going to snap it to match this vertex here so it's flat. It's not flat though. What did I do? Maybe I didn't match the right one. The vertices probably aren't perfectly matched over here and over here, so I'm just going to do them one at a time. So I'm just matching these, flattening that out a little bit. And you'll see why in just a second. And technically I don't have to flatten these out for any particular reason, but I think it'll look better in here and make more sense. So I'm just going to take this edge here and I'm double clicking, go to mesh, fill a hole, and same thing on the other side. So now I have this sort of shape, and I also want to match these up this way. So it's going to kind of throw off our cylindrical shape in that area a little bit, but it's fine. You know, it doesn't have to be a cylinder. There's no rule saying, you know, this must be a cylinder. If it's not a cylinder, you're fired. Alright, so let's do this. Okay. And that just allows me to actually, I could extrude these in to make my section that I'm trying to do, but that will mean that I'll have to do some cutting in here and reattaching stuff. So it's actually easier if I just kind of select these outer parts and extrude outward like this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just creating a kind of area where the leg can move. But let me just go back because I selected an area I didn't want. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So I'm just gonna extrude those out. That should be fine. sometimes when you extrude from a cylinder, you see how it's like smooth, all of this part is kind of smooth, and then you see these like sharp edges here. You can fix that. You just go to normals up here and set normal angle 45 degrees. That'll just kind of smooth everything out again. That way it looks better. It's actually a little bit smoother, I think, than what the default would be, but that's fine. That's fine. Plus, we're going to end up smoothing it anyway, which is actually what I'm going to get to right now, I think. So we'll just do some of this. Just putting in those edge loops where I want the edges to be harder. Whoops. Okay. Getting there. And, you know, once you've got your basic shape, you can always add in more detail if you wanted to put in like little spots in here. Like maybe I want to do some little like inside parts or something. Like if I want to maybe grab these and just kind of extrude them in. Oh, I didn't extrude them in. How convenient. Alright, so if I grab those and just kind of extrude them. Oh, again it didn't do it. That's so strange. Try this again. There we go. Okay, so now we're just going to extrude these inward. You know, just something to add a little bit more flavor to it, you know? Something to make it a little bit more interesting. And you can sharpen up these edges in here too to make it even nicer. That's what I like to do anyway. So, you know, but it's a lot of polygons, but again, I'm not concerned with that in this particular case. Oops, grabbed the wrong edge there. Okay, so, you know, now we have kind of an interesting little foot part there. And if we take this now and put it up here, I think that we can just kind of rotate around. So that's where we want it. I'm going to move the pivot point back to the end there. You can snap it to the last vertex if you want. And that's going to just let me rotate from that end point so I can do something like this. Which I think will end up being nicer. So I can put it like here if I want to, and then that way it can fold up and go back down. And you could rig that up if you wanted to. I think that I'm going to kind of shrink it down and then elongate it a little bit, just like that. Let's make it fit a little bit better. I think that that is fine. It is penetrating in there a little bit, So maybe you don't want that. You could fix that. I think that it's fine personally. I'm not concerned with it. You could do anything you want. You could just widen this out, which makes it a little kind of a weird shape, but it's not. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, it gives you more support down there, and it looks fine. So I think I actually will leave it like that. I'm going to edit, delete my history. I'm going to save this scene out. I'm going to save it as also a new scene. You can see I'm up to 8 now, but it's nice. You can always delete the older ones later on if you feel like you don't need them anymore. And then to get this on the other side, you know, we don't have to remake the whole thing. Let me just see. Let me set this to 0. There we go. Okay. So you just group it again. Duplicate the group, and then scale it negative z in this case, -1 z, and that's going to put it over on the opposite side. And now I'm seeing that they're kind of like hitting each other a little bit, but that's not a problem because I'm just gonna rotate it ever so slightly, like maybe 4 degrees. There. I'm using a local rotation because I like to rotate locally. If you don't have that, just double click and make sure local is set on your tool settings for that. So there's that basically. If we want to add like maybe a little pin or something going through there just to make it maybe a little more believable, or whatever. If it's not good enough, technically it probably should not be rotating from that high up. It should be rotating from a little bit lower down. But I'm not going to rig this up, so it's going to be fine. So I'm just going to put this on here. I probably should have done this already. I don't even know if I can really get it on there good now. So you can put like a little pin on there if you want it to be more believable. Or you could have it go all the way through if you really wanted. Same thing over here. So, and just like that, we have a nice little bipod that we can use. And if we grouped it with that one there, we could rotate them both at the same time. Because right now it's not going to group. It's not going to rotate correctly, but you could also parent this little one to this one, and then they'll rotate together. But obviously you would want it to kind of rotate around that pin in reality. But I'll probably do some renders where I just kind of flip these down and it'll look fine. You know, you're not seeing it animate, so it's not really a big issue. It looks pretty cool, so I'm pretty satisfied with that. There's no iron sights on this gun, which is kind of nice. I don't really like making iron sights. but you could just make a little piece down here, a little piece up there if you wanted to add your own. And there's probably some parts on the bottom that we could be adding in. I think that you can see some of them kind of down in there. But I'm not going to add that because it's just kind of not necessary, and it's not a level of detail that I'm going into for this particular weapon. So we're almost done. I think we'll put on these little bits, the attachments, and then maybe this little button here, and then we'll see if we're ready to render it. So for this piece, I'm not really going to look at any reference. I'm just going to kind of play it by ear. It's pretty easy to make a piece like this. Just starting with a cylinder, I'm going to extrude these faces out. Okay, so that is going to give me a rounded edge, and it's also going to give me, when I delete these, an inner part. I'll grab this edge loop and just kind of extrude that up. Now you can bridge you can use the bridge tool to kind of connect to two edge loops, but I don't ever use it because it just really doesn't work like it should work. It will connect the ends, but it won't connect the sides of the pieces that it makes. So I don't recommend doing that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then just don't worry about it. This is a good way to kind of do it quick. And you can just merge. Okay. And so then I will grab some vertices from above. So basically I'm just going to grab all of these out here. Whoops. Oh. Well, I'm going to grab all these out here. And I'm going to flatten them by scaling. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat. If you wanted to, you could align them so they're perfectly flat. I'm going to kind of pull it out like this. Okay, so now you can see I've got that shape that I want. I'm just going to insert a couple of edge loops here. On this side. Oh, it's the other side. Here we go. Okay, so you can see that corner's not really quite right because of just how we've moved the geometry, but I'm going to end up sticking that inside of the weapon geometry anyway. Kind of thicken that up a little bit, shrink it down, push it back here. Rotate 180 degrees, and then also 90 degrees. And this is just going to go right in that little spot that we made over here. So shrink that down. I'm holding D and moving the pivot down to the end here, just so I can, when I get up to it, kind of rotate it out a little bit. Actually, I'm going to push it back in there first. I'm going to rotate it out. Okay, so there's that little detail. I'm actually just going to go ahead and duplicate that. And I'm going to take out this rotation. I'm just going to bring it down, because we need something over here as well. and rather than fabricating a new piece, it's pretty easy to just kind of pop this in and call it a day. Make it smaller, it doesn't need to be that big. Okay, so there's the other one. I'll bring in a little bit more. Okay, and there's our sniper rifle. It looks pretty good, I think. I'm pretty satisfied with it. You know, there's a little bit of imperfections in the handle area, and you know, the topology isn't super awesome at all points on this thing, but you know, each model is different, and I'm really happy with how it's looking actually. And I think we'll get into a little bit of rendering. I guess real quick, if you wanted to make it look a little bit more detailed, you could take and put those little like screw bits in there. I'm gonna put the whole gun in its own layer now. And just so we can see these. Okay, so you see there's these little sort of rivet kind of things. And I didn't cut those in to the stock, so you know, you could cut them in if you wanted to, but it would be a pain in the butt. It would be a lot more work. But you could do it. I mean, essentially you would just make the shape and kind of extrude in a cylinder shape, and then you could put your little rivet piece in there. But you can also get that sort of result by just having them sit above the surface a little bit, and it'll look pretty good still. So you just want to kind of like pull this out a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of create one of these little rivets. So let's say there's that. And coming back out and pushing in. So I've kind of created like a little crease area in there. And then I'm gonna come in, and then for the center part, what you can do is you can take the vertices, and if you want to make it look sort of like maybe like a hex bolt or something, you can take this and snap it up there. Then you could take like all of these. You could take all of these and snap them up even more if you want, depending on how many divisions you have in your circle, your cylinder. You might be able to do more or less. But so you can make sort of like different little hex shapes or whatever. I'm just going to kind of leave this like it is now, but if you wanted to, you could potentially sort of stretch these until you get more. I guess I'll just go ahead and do this. If you want more of a hex shape. And then you just take this face here and extrude it in. Just a little bit at first, give you an edge, and go in deeper. Give a little edge, and then Really just kind of suck it down in there. Maybe give it one more little thing, so you get something like that. And then you can take this back end down here and just delete this. You don't need it. So now you've got this rivet. And bring your gun back up. And you can just set these like right on the surface. Depending on how you've modeled it, you can get it like on there. And so now there's like a little rivet. And if I turn off the gun, I can just take this. Make sure you delete your history. And we'll save as well, since we're near the end here. And I'm just going to duplicate it, and I'm going to position some of these. Duplicate. And you can rotate them too if you want that little screw part in the center to be off on them. I don't think all of these are exactly the same on the gun itself, but it's okay. We're just going to pretend they're all the same. There's one on the handle here. I'm not going to put that in because I know the handle's not very smooth, and it might not look too good. So I'm just going to leave that one out. Okay, so I just come on here and make sure they're all sticking out like a correct amount. Okay, and if you want to put them on the other side too, which you probably should just go ahead and do, just group them, and then duplicate the group. Scale at -Z, 1. Okay, now they're on the other side too. Okay, so and you can see all the little details and stuff there, and so that's pretty much all there is to it. We've gone through all the little steps here and modeled the whole thing. You can see this one is a lot of faces. These little pieces here alone are 4,600 polygons, so almost 47. So that's a lot. But if you don't care about the little details, then it's fine to just throw them there. And the overall weapons, quite a few polygons here, 18,000, more if you're counting triangles. So, that's a lot. And all this stuff is smooth in such a way that it can be rendered in mental ray like this. It's just kind of the preview smooth. If you need it to be actually smooth, like if you want to render in software, Maya software, then you would just go to mesh and you would smooth it with this. And that gives you a more permanent smooth. Or you could do like a proxy smoothing. But I usually just render in mental ray, so it's not a problem. I just do it like that. And so we can put some materials on here, and we can render it out. But I'm going to stop here for now, and we'll talk about rendering a little bit later. And we'll just kind of go from there. Alright. Alright, so we've basically completed modeling this. It's pretty much good to go. I can't think of anything that I really want to do with it extra, so I think that we'll just talk about rendering a little bit, and I'm not going to go into all the details of rendering because you could just write a book on that or several, but I'm just going to show you kind of like a basic setup for rendering out something like this when it's not textured or anything, and still getting a decent looking render that you can kind of show off your work and not have it look crappy. Because like if we just took this right now and just rendered it with all the default stuff, I mean, we get something like this, which it's just not good. It's not the right size. It's not got any kind of lighting. It's funkus. You know, you do all this stuff and then you get nothing to really show it off. So there's a couple of different things that I like to do. You can do an occlusion render, which looks really nice if you do it right. So I'll probably do one of those first, and then without texturing it, I could also put materials on here and do like a little render with just materials. So we'll probably do one of those too, and set up a little bit of lighting. But first thing I'm going to do is just select everything. Actually, before that, I'm going to put in a plane, just like a ground plane here, and well, even better than that, actually, one more thing we could do is if you go over to your surfaces tab here and put in a NURBS plane, you can make that pretty big. You want it nice and large, so you're not having to deal with you know, fitting it all in your camera easily. And then I'm just going to increase the patches. Pretty good, something like that is fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my animation shelf, and I'm going to go to create deformer, and under nonlinear you can put a bend deformer on there. Now what a bend deformer does is just kind of exactly what it says. It will bend, you know, the mesh, kind of curve it around, and initially you can see this green line that's created here, which is controlling now our plane, and it's not facing the right direction yet. What I have to do is I have to actually rotate this so that it's flat along the plane. So I'm just going to do a -90 there, and still probably not the right direction. If I go over to my history here on the bend and I change this curvature amount, see how it's bending in that way? I don't want that. I want it to bend kind of towards us and make like a C kind of shape. So I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees towards us, and then when I curve it, you can see how it's bending like this. It's kind of rolling up like a toilet paper roll or something, and that's what I'm looking for it to do. I'm also going to take this low bound here where it says -1, and I'm just going to change that to 0. So basically that's cutting our bend in half, and then when I curve it, I get a curve like this, and I want to come up about like that. It just gives us a nice little backdrop. So now I just delete all your history, don't need it. I'm just going to push that back a little bit, and so now I'm going to add this to its own layer. I'm just going to reference it so I don't mess with it. Okay, so now I have a nice smooth background that I can render on. It's not gonna, I don't have any edges, hard edges to worry about really. So that's good. And actually I'm gonna unreference that real quick because I just want to select everything. I'm going to create a new render layer because I just want to do my occlusion on its own kind of render layer. I'm going to right click that, and I'm just going to go to overrides here, and I'm going to create a new material override, and I'm going to make that a surface shader. Now when I do that, everything's going to kind of turn black. It's going to become like black shaded. There we go. It just went through. So you can't really see what's going on here. If you put this wireframe shaded view on, you can see the stuff a little bit better. And I'm just going to click one of these things, go to my attribute editor, and I'm going to find that surface shader. And under the out color, I'm going to attach, by clicking this little checker box here, I'm going to attach a mental ray ambient occlusion node. It looks like I don't have mental ray plugin turned on, So if that happens to you, just go up here to Window, Settings and Preferences, and then go down to Plugin Manager. And then I'll just scroll down to the bottom here, and this one that says Maya 2MR, that's Mental Ray. So I'm going to load that up, and I'm also going to check auto loaded. I like to have it loaded automatically, but I think sometimes if Maya crashes, it'll uncheck those boxes, so I must have had to crash at some point. Okay, so now when I go back here to add my node, I have all these mental ray options. And the easiest way to find the occlusion one is to just click this mental ray, and then in this little search box here type in OCC. I'm going to use this one, MIB underscore AMB underscore occlusion. Okay? So, it's going a little slow, but I'll just give it a second here. I think it's because I'm recording, it's going kind of slow. Okay, so in our attribute editor, we're looking now at the ambient occlusion shader, and there's a couple of things to look at here. Samples, this is basically if you're having any graininess or fuzziness in the final render, you're going to turn that up. And since we're going to do like a nice render, a good quality render, I'm going to probably kick that way up. 128 would be kind of the lowest I would go for like a really quality render, and then maybe 256 would be even nicer, and I probably wouldn't go higher than that unless I had actually see graininess in my render. Then I might turn that up just to make it a little bit more smooth. But I don't think that will be an issue. I'm actually probably gonna, well, I'll leave it on 256 for now. Now, bright is basically saying like the bright color is going to be white. Right now it's white. You can change this and get like some interesting effects. If you want it to look a little bit colorized, you can just kind of change it to like maybe I want like a little light aqua greenish color. And it's going slow again because I guess because I'm recording this. So hopefully that'll speed up a little bit. Okay, and then max distance, I'm going to leave that at 0. I'm going to leave spread where it's at as well. Dark is black. You could change that to maybe like a darker shade of this color, like a real dark green or something like that. But black will be fine. And so then the only thing left to do is just set up your render settings. So we're going to go under render settings, and I'm going to choose to render with mental ray. I'm going to render this pretty big. I like to render a 1080, so I'm going to go to HD 1080 here, and you can see that's a 1920 by 1080. And I'm going to render from the perspective. You could set up a render camera if you want to. I'm not worried about it. And I'm going to go under quality. I'm going to change that to production. But I really don't need to worry about all this ray tracing and stuff. I'm just going to set this reflections to 1 and refractions to 1 and max trace step to 2. I'm not using these right now, but I know I'm going to use them later when I do the materials render, so I'm just going to go ahead and set that up and leave it checked. When we're doing the occlusion, really this is what you want to look at here under anti-aliasing quality, the sample levels. Max sample level of 2 is fine. You could turn it up to 3 for a little bit sharper, nicer result, but it's not really necessary, and it will dramatically increase your render time. So I'm going to leave it at 2 for now and not really worry about it. I might turn it up later if I decide I want it a little bit nicer. Filter is set to gauze right now, which is fine. It will be basically it'll kind of like blur it a little bit and just make it like a little bit smoother. This one's kind of a slower than like box, but it gives you better results. And these two down here, Mitchell and I don't know how to say this one down here, but basically they're similar to gauze except that they will give you a sharper edge, a little bit crisper image. And I like to do that when I'm doing a non-textured kind of render because, you know, if you have a model that's fairly detailed, you want to show off that detail in the modeling. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it to Mitchell here and let that be set, and that'll be nice and give us nice sharp crisp edges. And you really don't need to worry about the rest of this stuff. I'm not doing any motion blur or anything, it's just a single frame image. And I'm not going to worry about final gather and all that right now because I'm just doing an occlusion render, so we won't worry about all that. I'm going to go ahead and just, let's see, close out of my render settings, and we're going to check this little box up here, which is our resolution gate, and that's going to let me see what's going to be in frame when this renders. And so I'm just going to kind of go in here and find a nice view. I don't want to cut off anything. I just want a nice little view of my gun, everything in frame. And you can set up whatever angles you want. You can do stuff like this and just kind of rotate this around to match, so that you're still getting that nice background. And so then you can just render it. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and I'll bring it back up after the render. Okay, so the render is done, and let's see how long it took. That render took me 6 minutes and 46 seconds, which isn't very long for a high resolution render like this. I'll spend a while on an image. It might take longer for you, it might take less time for you, I don't know. I have, this computer is like an 8-core AMD processor, and it's pretty quick. So let's take a look at our image here. This is a full 1080 image, and if you don't have a 1080 resolution on your monitor, you're not going to be able to really look at all that at once in actual resolution. Sometimes when you're zoomed out a little bit, it'll look kind of like jagged on the edges, but if you hit this little 1:1 button here, that's the actual image at its full resolution. So you can see here there's, I don't mean to keep dragging like that, but you can kind of see there's some graininess in here, and you see the color is that kind of like lightish green that I chose. But if you get in close here, you can see some of that graininess, and that's from on our ambient occlusion. The sample rate is at like 128, I think, and I'll probably kick that up to 256 and do it again. But you can see the render is a nice quality. It's pretty crisp. Our edges are nice and sharp where we want them. But through the techniques that we used, even though the edges are sharp in places and they look crisp, they're not unbelievably sharp. They're not so sharp that they seem unreal. Like if we look at the barrel down here, oops, it's a crisp, sharp edge, but it's not too crisp. It's not so crisp that it's unbelievable. And it looks like there might be a little error in here. Actually, it's not an error. I put some of these little kind of rail things on the bottom here, and that one doesn't quite match the edge, so there's a little line there where that's not come to the very edge, but that's not really a big deal. I thought it was an error at first, but it's not. I realize what it is now. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I'm going to probably flip these down. I'm just going to rotate them and stick them out, and do one where it kind of looks like it's set on the ground. And I'm also going to turn up that occlusion sample rate. So I'm just going to click one of these, go to my out color here, click this little thing. Okay, well it is at 256, so it's pretty high. I'm going to turn it up to 512 though, just double it. And it's going to take longer, but it's going to look nicer. So we'll do that. I'm also going to just select the whole gun, not the background though. I'm going to group that, and let me rotate these things out. I want to make sure I do them both the same, so I'll probably do it down there. Let's say, okay, let's say 84 degrees. And this one will be, I guess, negative 84. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so see, I forgot to put these little pins on there. Let me put that back, because I think that I thought I parented them, but maybe I didn't. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that one's parented. So I'm just parenting those little pins that we put in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that back to 84. Oops. I want this to be 84. There we go. 84. Okay, and now the pin's going with it. That's good. We can negative 84 here. Okay. And of course, if you had those rigged up, that would be even simpler to do. And I'm just going to take this whole thing, and I'm probably going to come into my side view here and actually go ahead and move that pivot down to the bottom of the bipod, excuse me, just so that it'll kind of rotate easier from there, and we'll get an easier placement. So now if I come in here and I just push that up until it's like right on the surface, and then I can just rotate it down so that it's resting. Okay. So now we have like the gun sitting there. It's looking pretty cool. You can do some different angles if you want. Maybe we want to do one from here. And just rotate this so it's kind of facing us. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and render this again. So as soon as that's done, I'll cut back in and show you the results. So here we go. Alright, so that render has completed. Let's see how long that one took. That one took about twice as long, which we doubled the sample rate. That one took 1307. I think the other was like 620 something, or I don't know, 6 minutes and change. But you can see it's much cleaner. There's almost no real static or any kind of mess in there. Even getting in real close, you only start to see it really kind of zoomed in there. And it's even still significantly less than what it was. So we've got a real nice render here. I think the end result of this modeling session has been pretty good. I'm happy with it. I don't think I'm going to go into putting some materials on there and doing all that right now. I may add that in later, but this has already gone on pretty long, so I think we're just going to get to kind of editing this together. This has been my first sort of tutorial walkthrough of how I go about modeling weapons in Maya, and hope to do some more. So if you like it, let me know. If you have any kind of requests, maybe we can take a look at that. If there was anything that wasn't real clear, let me know about that. Just give me some feedback, and we'll see where this goes. Maybe I can do some more of these, depending on if I have time and stuff, and if people are getting anything out of them. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope that you can get a nice result following along, doing something similar. Do your own weapon, do this weapon, do whatever you want to do. So really, once you've got it rendered out like this, the last step is just to save it. You come up here and hit File, save the image. I like to save them out as a TIFF. You may also want to save a JPEG, because some websites won't take TIFF. But I'm just going to save this to my desktop. Well, I'll save it in the project images folder for now. I'm just going to call this Sniper Render 01. Usually I'll do a few different renders from different angles, and I'll probably kick those out later because this is 13 minutes to render this, so I don't want to do that right now. And I'm going to save off a JPEG while I'm at it. But I like the TIFF because it's not going to be so compressed. I mean, it's not going to be all compressed. You can take it into Photoshop, touch it up, save it out as a JPEG later without messing up the quality of your image. Actually, I'm going to do, there we go. Okay, so that's all for this. Wrapping it up. Just let me know what you think, and good luck.